Hello there. Welcome to Wholehearted Living with Bennie.
And Valerie.
And we are the... Oh, you get to do that part, do you?
Yeah, why not? I can do it.
Okay,
we are the siblings who chat on a podcast together. And one of us brings a topic and the other one has no idea what we're going to talk about. And we kind of surprise the other person. And then we just chat about it.
That's right.
And the topics usually tie into living a wholehearted life.
Usually, don't they always?
Yeah, but sometimes we go off, you know.
Oh, well, they always go off. Have we really totally stayed on topic?
That is
I'm not sure that we've ever totally stayed on topic.
That is very true.
But anywho, we're glad you're with us. So thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. So,
yes.
And pass the word if you would.
Mm-hmm.
So Valerie Lynn, tell me about how you're doing.
I'm doing really good. I am, because we're back to work, and I'm really happy that I was placed back at Lincoln. I know every year is always like, if you remember last year, and if you
that's crazy.
Listeners
that was
were
a
here,
whole year
that was a year ago. We chatted
that.
about this, how I was like working at I got assigned to a different school, and where I was just hoping and praying that I can go back to my school site, and I was able to. And so this year, no sweat, I got put back at my school site, so very excited. And I'm working with a new student who I started kind of working with last year because he was a kinder student, and he wasn't assigned an aide yet, but they were assessing him because he did need one. And so he got approved for an aide, so now I'm basically his aide. So he's in first grade, and so I love when I get him little like that, because you watch them grow. And
oh, right, because you had one for several years, did you not?
I mean, well, I went at Fern, but since I was at Lincoln, I seemed to always just teeter between like third, fourth, and fifth graders.
Oh, okay.
And then last year, because of the student that came in, I went over to kinder with another fourth and fifth grade. So it's a whole new ball game, because, you know, when you're working with fourth and fifth graders, even though they might be special needs, you're in a classroom of fourth and fifth graders.
Right.
Now I'm in little tiny chairs, lots of crayons, you know, lots of chaos, lots of toys. And so it's a little different, but it's actually fun. And I know I'm going to have so much fun with this little guy. Yeah. So it's good. It's a totally different feeling this year than it was last year. Because as you remember, as we were doing the podcast, I was hoping I can go back to my school
Yeah, it was stressful.
Site.
It was really stressful.
Mm-hmm.
So here's something. We saw Kylie, your daughter, in her play called
musical.
Oh, let's stop though. Iggy, thank you so much. How are you, Iggy?
Iggy's here.
I don't know how I got thrown into that chain of thought.
I know. I looked over and I saw you, and I realized that we didn't acknowledge you.
Oh,
Thank
I thought
you,
maybe
Iggy,
because it had to do with audiovisual, musical.
I did not. But we got to see her in The Hunchback of
Notre Dame.
Notre Dame.
Yes.
And so that was really, really fun. Patty and I had been to Paris many years ago, and it's so stupid because it's clearly not Paris, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I have to admit, just when they were talking about Notre Dame, I was picturing myself in there, because we were there before it burned down, and so it was kind of fun to picture it. It didn't look anything like it,
right?
but it was really, really.
Did you see
fun.
the gypsies walking around?
The gypsies, yeah, they were everywhere.
No, you're right. That's true. We've been to. I know you guys went and saw last week. We've been to. I think I've seen 4 of the shows already.
Yeah, well, it was crazy because we, of course, it's so funny because it starts off and there's the very beginning scene. She's in, and she sings a little bit
up in the balcony.
And then, honest to God, I thought, is she in this play?
Right.
Because there was like a long time, or musical, excuse me, and it was like it took forever for her to come back out, and then she comes out and she's out quite a bit
she's often,
at that point.
Yeah, because she's like the lead female. But it was really funny.
It was so sad. Are you going to say this?
No. What was funny is she had told us. She said when. I forgot how she even brought it up before the show even started. This is when they were doing rehearsals. She said, I come out for like a second and sing a little blurb, and then I'm gone. She goes, for like 15 minutes. And I go, really? And I go, you're the lead female and you're gone for that long? She goes, yeah, but there's just like grand entrance, you know. And it was actually more grand than what we saw, because it was supposed to, they were going to wheel her out on the stage kind of thing.
Oh,
and then
really?
They switched it up for whatever reason. But I'm like, okay. So, you know, it was fun. You're watching. And then I think I even did say to Peter at one time, she is coming out, right?
I know. I seriously, I can't remember what it was, but we were joking because obviously we knew that she would eventually come out. But because she's Esmeralda. So if for those of you that have ever know anything about it, Esmeralda is the key female performer. But what was fascinating, as you well know, but I'm going to share it with our listeners, is the whole time, even the very first time she sang, I thought something's weird about her mic. But she was very brief in the beginning, so I thought the sound guys didn't have enough time to like fix it or whatever. And then she comes out 15 minutes later or whatever it is, and she comes out and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's not right. And the way I honest to God thought, because I've heard this before. It sounds so ridiculous, but because this is a professional performance, and I guess, honest to God, because our church was very large, we were very used to very, expert people that knew how to do sound. And what was interesting is I thought the battery's messed up. The battery is dead.
That's what Peter was saying.
I seriously thought the battery is dead. And but anyway, she came out and she's singing, and it was like it just did not sound right. And you could tell that it wasn't her. It had nothing to do with her not sounding right. It had to do with the fact the sound just wasn't right. And she was on and off, so they couldn't fix it. And then all of a sudden, one time she comes out and she sounded good, and I was like, oh cool, they fixed it. And she turns around and she's got a handheld mic. She's got a handheld mic.
Well, she told us, I don't know if you guys noticed this, but okay, so once they realized there was an issue, they told her.
Well, I don't know why they didn't realize there was an issue like 20 seconds into her singing. But
okay, she said they didn't notice it with the first song, because I said if they had noticed it with that 30-second blurb that she sings, there was all that time before she comes back out to fix it. But they didn't notice it. So that's...
Did you notice it, Iggy? Iggy's sound, dude. I noticed it.
Yeah.
Okay, so for some reason they didn't. So she didn't think anything of it until
it got worse.
It got
worse
down.
though. So I will say it did get worse. So I can understand that maybe they didn't. But the point is that I noticed it in the first song.
Okay, so when she went down for her to come out finally is when they did notice it. So that when she went off briefly right after that first song, they said, "Okay, when you have a minute, come up to the sound booth and we'll fix it all up for you." She didn't have a minute until the intermission. So that's why.
Oh, you mean,
for them to give her another,
a new mic for the face.
So she was just like, are you kidding me? Because she's dressed in layers, so they would have to take everything off of the battery pack. And then she's got a wig on for the headpiece. So she had to have more than a big minute. She had to have a lot of minutes. But
a big minute.
They put the microphone. So one of her friends, her coworker, her co-star, or whatever you call it, told her, put the microphone in your shirt, your handheld. And she goes, really? She goes, yeah, just put it in there. So she did come out with the first song, I guess, with it there. And then they told her later, no, we're not picking you up. You got to hold it. And so she's like, oh, okay. Well, and she said she was just so thrown off because, well, first of all, there's so much emotion in some of the things she does with her hands, and especially with when she's talking to Quasimodo. And then she goes, and then there's time, she runs up those stairs a lot, and she goes, there's one scene where I'm running up the stairs with a knife in my hand. Then I have to hold my dress up so I don't trip on the dress. Then I have to grab the railing, and now I have a microphone in my hand.
Joe, when that happened, I was nervous.
Yeah.
I saw her running up there, and I actually thought, oh my God, if she falls, I'm going to run.
Yeah.
I'm going to run.
I know.
I seriously, I'm not joking. It freaked me out a little bit. Because I thought, I'll be honest with you, those stairs look rickety anyway. I was nervous no matter what. But especially because of the fact that I saw her doing that. But I will say this. Now, obviously, we do not know what we didn't see, so we have no idea. And you later told me that she was bummed. But all I can tell you is we got to see a lot of dance scenes. We got to see a lot of different stuff. And by the time she was doing the parts that she had the mic on, it seemed to me, at least in terms of what the rest of the cast was doing, that she was not as active as she was when she had the bad mic. Are you with me? Am I wrong, Patty? Iggy? Yeah.
What does that mean?
Yeah, she just seemed like she wasn't quite moving as much. But the point is that we thought she was great.
She's supposed to be singing the rhythm of the tambourine, and she's supposed to be the rhythm of the tambourine. There's one of them where she's doing this slapstick song where she's slapping her knees and doing this, that, and the other. She goes, I couldn't do any of that.
Yeah. Like, well, we thought she was great. We thought she was great. So we totally thought she was great. And then, of course, they later fix it. And then it was really, and then obviously that was great. But one thing that I thought was really fun, I already told you the story, but I'll tell it for our listeners. But I had at the intermission, I there was a seat unoccupied next to me, but there was a woman next to that, and she was 10 years older than me, probably, or more. And I said to her, I said, my niece is Esmeralda. And she goes, oh, you must be very proud. And I was like, yeah. And then and then the second act comes out and she does her thing. And I have no idea. I'm just watching. Mm-hmm. That's all I'm doing. I'm not even remotely paying attention to this woman at all. And the show ends and I look, and of course we're applauding and all that stuff. And actually it's before they do the
bows.
Curtain call. Yeah, the bows. Yeah. And the woman looks over at me and she goes, I don't know what was more entertaining, watching you watch her or actually the actual show. The actual show. Uh-huh. And I had no idea that I was putting those vibes out. But,
right.
But I will say, it was really fun to watch her again.
Yeah.
I say again because if you guys remember last year, we got to see her on Disney Cruises.
Yeah.
So that was it was just really fun to see her.
Well,
so
I'm glad you guys went.
Yeah, it was cool. All right. Are you ready for my subject?
I am.
Okay.
Give it to me, baby.
This is a question, and there's a right and wrong answer.
You do this every time.
And if you get it wrong, then we might as well just end the podcast. No, this is actually not a right or wrong answer in any way, shape, or form. Okay, so I want to know what you think of this phrase, and then we can and then honestly, my whole subject is about this phrase.
Okay.
What do you think of the phrase, the way you do one thing is the way you do everything? For the listener, I'll say it one more time.
Yeah, do it though. Say it again.
The way you do one thing is the way you do everything.
That's like a game show.
It sounds like It sounds like password, isn't it? Password.
Huh?
What's that? Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard that phrase before, but what do I think of it?
Yeah, what is your thoughts on that phrase? And like, do you live by that, or do you...
I mean, I don't necessarily live by it, but I do believe the way you do one thing is probably how you do everything.
Yeah.
I would imagine so, because that's just in your microbiome.
Is that like a macro protein? It's mushroom coffee. It's adaptogen.
No, I mean, I feel like it's just who you are, maybe, right?
Okay, Iggy, because we're going to talk about that. You and I will talk, Valerie and I will talk about this in a second. But Iggy, what are your thoughts? You have a microphone, so you have to answer. The way you do one thing is the way you do everything.
I think it's true.
You think it's true? Okay, you know what? Tell me why you think it's true first.
Because I feel like the way I've always thought about it is everything is a stepping stone to something else. So then if I'm trying to think of an example.
Okay, you think of an example. Peter, come up here, because you were nodding your head no. So Peter, come on. Okay. Peter, he's off camera, but he's going to talk right here.
I disagree only because I have different thoughts on many different things, and I react to different things in different ways, so I disagree.
So, like, what is that? Like, can you give an example of what? No, the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. So
I don't agree with that.
Okay, so Peter's going no. So out there are listeners that are going either way, and I'm not even sure. You're going to probably laugh because I'm not 100% sure I agree with it across the board.
I agree with that.
I think in general there is definitely an underlying idea of the way you do something is indicative of how you might do other things. Let's just cut to the chase. Do you have your example yet?
Well, what I was just going to quickly say was, I don't think that you should live by that. I don't think that you should adopt that as because then you can make yourself go crazy, because maybe if you did say, well, I would do this differently, but I have to do it like this because I do everything the same way. But I'm just saying, like, if you have a way about you, it's usually how you handle most things. That's.
Did you get your example? It's to Iggy. Sorry for the listener.
If he doesn't, it's okay.
Yeah, it's really okay. I don't want to put you on the spot.
The easiest example I could think of was, for some reason, when I was little, in school, we used to take turns on like who gets to erase the blackboard, and it was always a thing of like the kids that would erase the blackboard and still leave a bit of a mess on there. Chances are their desk is also a mess.
So there it is.
So then,
that's actually a really good
and
point.
like I just thought of interviews. Like I saw this clip of someone asking one of the players on the Dodgers, like, who among your teammates would you let babysit your kids? And then someone asked about a certain player, I forgot who, and they're like, no, right away. And they're like, why? Like, have you seen his locker? Like, it's a mess. Like, I don't want that.
Right.
See, those are very good examples as to how you would do one thing because if you ask me to erase a blackboard, there will be no chalk to be found.
It will be a blackboard.
Exactly.
Okay, Peter, he's going to come back.
Okay.
Sorry.
Don't be sorry. We asked you.
So, like, a little different look at that is that a lot of people that you see that are completely messy are very, very good at like
creative arts, for sure.
So it's like they're not necessarily going to be a mess in everything that they do. They look at certain things and say, I don't really care too much about that. What I do care about is this. So that might be why they leave a mess behind, but then they create like a masterpiece.
Amazing music,
right?
Or amazing
well,
art
what's
piece.
interesting about what you're saying though is because it's so funny because as soon as you said that, I thought creative folks are often not. If you listen to our last podcast, we talked about being very organized and orderly and routine.
I know. I was just thinking, I wonder what Brene Brown's house is like, because she's so like good with writing her books and everything.
Yeah, so. Exactly. And so the thing is that I think that for some people, creative people typically are not quite as organized. That doesn't necessarily mean they're not very intentional, because I think a lot of like if you listen to Jerry Seinfeld, of course he's ridiculous on his end because he's very intentional about writing jokes and getting the jokes done. It's not for him just like, fly by the seat of the pants. He literally, I think I saw this on a biography that he still has every joke that he's ever written in a file.
Wow.
There's never been a joke that he's written that he doesn't have written down, that he said that isn't written down somewhere. So here's the thing. The reason why I brought it up for Wholehearted Living is because when I read this, I actually read this quite some time ago. And so whenever I'm doing our podcast research, I'm always looking back into some things that impacted me. And so I'm like, because I think I'm with Iggy, I think there is something to be said about the fact that when we do, even living a life of integrity, so integrity meaning, if you look up the word integrity, it has to do with the idea of your values and your actions match. Because a lot of people will say, I love my family, and in the meantime, they're abusing them, or they're workaholics and they never go home, or they don't show any attention and they don't do anything. And that would be somebody who's not necessarily living a life of integrity, or at least according to the way most people would view that. Now, in their minds, they might be thinking, what do you mean? I'm providing for them. But the point is that a life of integrity is when the values are matching the actions that a person is living, right? And so what's interesting about this phrase is if we aren't doing things with, I'm going to use the term excellence, then there's a very good chance that we don't do any. We struggle with excellence. We like to do things mediocre all the time. Does that make sense? Yeah. So I just thought I thought it was an interesting phrase, and so I wanted to know from your perspective. And then I have several things that I've written down, and we'll see where this goes. But I was curious from your perspective. Do you in your life, and I think I know the answer to this because I know your life a little bit. Do you find yourself doing everything the same, like with the same sense of urgency, excellence, I don't know, however you want to define yourself, do you find yourself across the board living according to that, to whatever it is?
I do.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's because I'm boring. I'm okay to be boring, but I find myself, I put myself together in the same manner that I keep my house together, in the same way that I keep things organized at work together. My car is a certain, like, I personally do things across the board the same way. But then you have people like, if you were to see Kylie, for example, you think that she's together. But if you saw her car or bedroom, you'd be just like, what the heck? Like,
yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, there's things that she just does not care about. But if you saw her as a person, you'd go, oh, she's always put together. But then there's other things that she's just like, I don't care about it. Like, I'm excellence in this, and I am not at all excellent in that,
Right. Well, and I guess you have to define the word excellent, because the truth is that in her mind, she's thinking this is excellent because this is not important. My car, for instance, is not important. Like for her, she's probably thinking this has no value to me other than getting me from A to B.
Right. And I don't know. I mean, part of it is like you can start like making these like little. You can compartmentalize things, because is part of the reason I do everything across the board, just because I'm OCD, or because I am boring, or because I like, do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know, but would it be more freeing if I was somebody like Kylie, for example, that just let that part go, but then I focus on this to be bad? I don't know.
I'm smiling right now for those that aren't watching, because it is weird for me, because, there are times that I just think, and there are things that I can let go. That our house does not look like your house.
It's very good today. Is it because Iggy and Pat, Iggy and Trinity moved out?
It actually kind of is, because we keep up on keeping it clean all the time. But the truth is that we probably value.
You live in your house.
We very much live in our house. We don't have an Ethan Allen house, and I think of Mom, of course, in her living room. It's like always immaculate, even though she does her Bible study, she does all that stuff inside there. She uses it, in other words.
But it's all put.
But man, it's everything's, and she'll buy things to make sure that it's in her spot. I mean, it's so funny. She'll like go, well, I couldn't find a place for this pen, so I got this other thing.
Yeah, this little organizing.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like she's very, very organized. Yeah. If I got anything about organization, did we talk about this on the podcast that I used to write notes to myself?
Yes.
I used to write notes to myself, and I'd actually say "Love Bennie" to myself. But here's the thing why I brought this subject up is for our listeners, because some people struggle out there to achieve their goals, right? They struggle to get their goals done, and they're trying, or they have dreams that they really want to achieve, and they think, I can't get those dreams done, or I'm never going to get those dreams done. And they kind of feel like they're out of reach. And one of the things that I like to coach, at least, is start with the small things. Because if we start with the small things, the next thing you know, the big things start to come. Yeah. And so there's a famous, I don't know if you've ever heard of, have you ever heard of this? Let me see his name. I forgot his name. Oh my goodness. His name is here somewhere. Come on, Benny. Admiral William McRaven.
Nope.
You haven't studied him? Anyway, he did this commencement address at University of Texas at Austin. And one of the things that he mentioned, so he was a Navy SEAL. So he obviously moved up to Admiral, which I believe is the highest rank for a Navy person. And so like a general in the Army. And so, but what he did was he shared, start every day with making your bed. And it's really interesting, because you would think as a military person that the reason, let me ask you, why would you think that he would say that?
Why would he say it?
Yeah.
I don't know. I just think it sets the tone. I don't know. I don't know why he would say it, but I just know that when we've never left our bed unmade. It's made and I used to make it every single day. And then Peter kind of because he used to work at night, and then he would make it when he got up, and he just pretty much makes it every day now. But we never make it. But I just feel like it just sets a tone for the whole day to have the bed made first. And then it's not messy.
Right. Well, what's interesting is a Navy SEAL, I thought this was fascinating because he said, you would think that the reason why we required our SEALs to make their bed every single day is because we were disciplining them and meticulous, and that's the military. He goes, but here's the reason why. We wanted people to start their day with a success. Everyone can make their bed. Everyone can do that. There's not a single person out here that can't do that. If you make your bed, it tells your brain, I can do this. And you start your day off with a win.
Wow.
You didn't have to do anything. I mean, it's so simple to make your bed. And he says this started their day off with a win. And if they ended up having a crappy day, if they ended up having a day where things just did not go,
at least they made their bed.
They came back to a bed that was made. Yeah. And the bed, this is the way he saw it too. The bed reminded them that tomorrow's a new day and I get to start all over and I get to make that day a new day. And I thought, when I read this and I was reading about the whole power of that, I thought that is such a powerful thing because it's about telling our brains that you can see. I think a lot of people, they're convinced that they're losers. Now, they might not ever say that. They might even be arrogant to the degree of saying, I'm great, I'm great, I'm great. But when they go and look in the mirror, they're saying, God,
well, yeah.
suck.
When people have to tell everybody that they're great, it's usually because they're not feel like they're
great.
Yeah.
And so the thing is that what his point was, if you do this, then you're telling yourself that you can do something. And then you do the next thing, and then you do the next thing.
You just feel like you accomplished something right away.
Yeah. And so the idea, and I'm getting off the bed thing now, although I think that is a good thing because there is something even psychological about walking into a room where a bed is made.
100%.
It's just
for
nice.
Me, yeah.
It just feels good. But the thing is that I'd never thought about the psychological fact that it's a win. I did something today. I'm moving forward now. I'm doing good. And then the idea would be, then you do the next thing. And you just do the next win. It doesn't have to be a big thing.
So these are all the little baby steps that you're just,
the baby steps. Yeah. And his point was, as we, in the SEALs, when these guys are going through hell, and I think most people would say it's the hardest training in the world. It's really not about the physical aspect because most of those guys are physically capable of doing everything. It's never really about that. It's about the mental ability to continue on, even when your body and everything is saying, I have to stop. Now, I want to be careful because there are times when you do have to stop. Your body is literally saying you're in danger.
Well, no, I agree with you on that because I think we've talked about this about the marathons that I've done. And it's a mental thing after a while because you can get yourself to... I just remember when Dustin was training for the marathon, the very first one he didn't fully train. And I just remember going, you didn't go for a long run? And he goes, no, I know how to run. And I go, but you need to go for long runs because you need to mentally prepare to be running on that pavement for hours. And he's like, I know how to run. I was in cross country. I'm okay. He was dying. Because you need to prepare. So the mental thing has tons to, because he can run.
Yeah.
He can.
Oh my gosh.
But you're mentally out there for hours. You need to prepare for that.
Remember
so
when we went to Big Bear and we ran with him?
Yeah.
And that was so stupid. Because we ran with him. And this was back in the day when I ran 5 miles a day.
Yeah.
And I remember running. And Dustin was like, well, I haven't ran in a while. And we're like, okay, well, hopefully that means we can keep up. Yeah. No, see you later.
He kind of tried to stay with us. And after a while, like, okay,
he was
bye.
like, oh, forget it. I was like, no, it's not going to happen. No, but here's the thing that about wholehearted living is just simply the idea that we need to take the baby steps. We need to take the wins. And when you start taking the small wins, all of a sudden you can start accomplishing the big wins. But if you don't do the small things, it's really hard to get the big things. And that was the point of the phrase. The point of the phrase is the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. And so for me, I agree with Peter because I do think that there are certain things that are just irrelevant. Who cares? But there is something to be said about tricking your brain, especially to say that I want to have the win. I need the win. I have so many failures. I can't get this done at work. I can't get this thing done with this kid, yours, whatever it is. And so many people struggle in these little tiny avenues, and their brain starts to convince themselves that I'm a loser. I can't do it. But when we start getting the wins, all of a sudden our brain starts saying, you're a winner. You can get these things done. So,
and then it puts you in the mindset to be able to tackle the bigger things.
Right. And so one of the things that I said, it highlights our behaviors, our habits. It changes our attitude towards things. It changes our mindset. And so the whole idea is that if you do everything with excellence, if you attempt to do everything with excellence, it helps you in the areas that you truly care about excellence. So I just think it's a principle, particularly for people who are struggling right now and saying, I wish that I could do X, Y, and Z. Then I would say, well, start small. Don't try and look for the next big job or the lottery or whatever. I have a friend I call every morning, and it's fascinating to me because he was telling me, he's very successful, and he said. And he's very chill, though. He's super chill. And he just told me, he said, I just got offered a new job. And he goes, but my wife and I are thinking about it. We're not sure. I think I'm going to take it. But, and then he just went on to say, what I'm grateful for is that this job has allowed me the opportunity to just do the work. But this new job is going to appreciate me in a different way because he's going to actually be called a vice president and this and that. And so the point is that, but I just thought, if he wouldn't have done these other things with excellence, he wouldn't be being offered this other job. It just wouldn't happen. And in his mind, he's not even thinking I'm doing it with excellence. He's just thinking I'm just plodding along. I'm just taking one day at a time and doing the work. So I just think that's a huge thing. So
I think it's good too. Just personally, how you handle things as, not even necessarily like actual goals, but like how you treat people. Like you treat one person a certain way, you treat your kids a certain way, you treat your spouse, you treat your friends, because a lot of times you take I know for myself, you tend to take what's the word I'm looking for? You treat the people closest to you kind of
you take for granted.
Yeah, and you're just like, well, they'll always be there, I don't need to be, and then you get a phone call from somebody, hi, how are you? You know what I mean? How many times have you heard that kind of thing? And so I just think that it can be, if you can pertain it to people that you work with, to your people. I
think I told you guys this story once, but I'm going to tell it again right now because of what you're saying. It's really cool. But I remember there was an I'm going to call him a CEO. I actually don't remember, a CEO and two people that were applying for a job, and they all went out to dinner. When the dinner was done, the guy said, hey, I'm going to offer you a position. And the other guy ended up going alongside him and saying, well, I'm just curious. We didn't even talk about business. So I'm curious why you didn't offer me the job. And he said, well, two things that happened, or I maybe there were more, but the two that I remember were, he said, and this is really funny. He goes, you didn't try your food before you went ahead and seasoned it. So it was like you made a pre-decision without actually trying something, and you just went ahead and started putting salt and pepper in and doing things without trying it. So you were not actually in the moment. You were just doing things out of habit. And then he said, the second thing is, I noticed the way you treated the server, and you treat him like a server instead of a person. And I want people in my organization.
That's huge.
And I just thought that was an amazing lesson to learn because of like what you just said.
Right.
The idea was, I want to know that you live this.
Right.
I want to know your character.
Sure.
I'm not just interested in your resume.
If you can exactly.
Because both of them probably had the same resume.
Right.
So now I'm looking for, what are the things that make you stand out?
Yeah,
yes. What are the things that make you stand out? And so that, to me, spoke volumes. So
sure.
I thought that was pretty cool.
That is.
Yeah. Well, I'm not even going to go anymore because I think I would just muddy the waters. So, but did it make sense?
Yeah.
Was this a good subject?
No, of course. Yes.
Yeah. Peter, are you okay now? Now are you on my board? Very good.
I don't know if you know who Jordan Peterson is.
Come up.
Oh. I don't know if you know who Jordan Peterson is, but he has a podcast, and that's one of the first things he says is get up and make your bed every day, because it just makes you a responsible person.
See, so yeah, there it is.
There you go.
But don't listen to his podcast. Listen to ours. Totally kidding.
Maybe we should call George Peterson and ask him to watch ours.
Jordan.
Okay.
Do things with excellence, not George. I'm kidding. So anyway, folks, if you're out there, you're struggling, you're wanting to know, where do I begin? Begin by making your bed.
Yeah, I like it.
There it is.
And then have your cup of coffee. A cup of coffee always makes you excellent.
Yeah, exactly.
No,
all
that
right,
was
folks.
good. Thank you, Benny.
You're welcome. Thanks for listening to Wholehearted Living. We are at
Wholehearted_living_podcast.
I'm going to remember our Instagram handle one day.
Yeah, follow us. Send us a message, please. I think we did have a message about somebody that wanted a certain topic. We're going to have to chat about that later and then get on that.
Wow, way to be specific. Specific.
Excellence, everyone.
Iggy, thank you so much for keeping us in sound. I always say keeping us in sound. I don't think that's a true phrase,
no,
but thank you.
I don't know how
we coined it.
We coined it. Yeah.
Thank you, Peter and Iggy, for giving us your feedback.
Peter, thank you for giving us your feedback too. And we're very glad that you joined us, folks. So thank you for listening to Wholehearted Living. Like we said, leave us a comment or do something like that. So, ciao.
All right, bye.